So, 2 weeks ago, I made a tier list where I shared my thoughts and opinions on every single tier 10 in Blitz. I made a 42-minute long video letting all of you know where I think each tier 10 currently resides. Now, as I reacted to another content creator's tier list earlier today, the content creator tried saying how, all tier lists are opinions and therefore you're not actually listening to what the public has to say, blah, blah, blah. So I said, you know what, fine. I've been wanting to do a tier list where the public gets to vote where tanks go for a while, and that was finally the motivation for me to do that. So today I streamed for about 3 hours, and with that stream, you all voted where certain tanks should go in the tier list. Every single tank in this list in front of you here, you voted for. Now, obviously, people watching the video here that were not part of the stream technically didn't vote for. But the point being, we had around 200 people on the stream, and those 200 people all voted on each one of these categories and where the tanks should go. And based off of that, we are going to be going over the tier list today. We're going to be comparing it to my tier list, and I'll be sharing my thoughts and opinions. I also will mention that this tier list only has 4 categories: workable, good, super strong, and OP. And the reason why is because YouTube polls doesn't allow you to use 5 categories. So we're missing the strong category. I will admit some of the tanks in the good and super strong category would have ideally been in the strong category, but we just didn't have that as an option, so it is something to keep in mind. I, in retrospect, probably should have just not used the workable category, apart from like 2 tanks, not had like OP available for them, and then I could have had a strong category, but it's whatever, right? So the 116 F3 and the Waffenträger F1 both made it into the workable category. And that's not really a shocker in my tier list as well. What a shocker if we actually find where I showcased it. There you go. The Waffenträger F1 and 116 F3 both made it into the workable category for me. That's not a big shocker, right? The 116 F3 is a pile of mid. It has nothing unique going for it. I mean, yes, it has 490 alpha, but so does a minnow. And the minnow has 3 shells, and it has much better armor. It has almost the same DPM. It's got better gun depression and pretty similar mobility. The 116 F3 really is just one of the most mediocre tanks. It does not deserve to be even in the good category because it really isn't good. And the Waffenträger F1 is another tank that just isn't good. The Waffenträger can do well, and I actually have pretty good statistics in it, right? If you actually make your way over to Germany and you go to tank destroyers, like we can see on my press account, I'm averaging, 3,600 with 76% win rate. But does that mean every player is going to average that? And does that mean it's a great tank? No. It's not a very good vehicle, and I fully agree, as I showcased in my tier list, where these vehicles go. Now, in the average category, I put the VK72, the Mouse, Jagdpanzer, Object 140, 62A, IS4, 260, that's an AMX 30B. Now, the average category here is just the good category. So, if I change the name of this to average, it's the same thing. So, in the average category, we basically have the VK72, so you guys agree with that. The Jagdpanzer E100, you agree with. The Object 140 does make it here. The IS4 also makes it here. The Object 260 also makes it here. The AMX 30B makes it here. So there's quite a few vehicles which were put into the average category, which a lot of you agreed with that I had on my tier list. And as we can see, a lot of the vehicles in the strong category, like the Rheinmetall Panzerwagen, the 114 SP2, the Marat, all of those tanks also made their way into the good-ish category, which is kind of like, what I tried to do is I tried to average, to me, I wanted to mix with strong so that we could turn 2 categories into one. So I mixed average with strong, and we have good. So basically, if you look at these 2 lists here of strong and average, you will arrive to the good category. And honestly, about 80% of the tanks in the good category are shared in this tier list, right? So in strong, what do we have? We have M60, 210E3, Rheinmetall Panzerwagen, 263, 26A version 4, Vickers Light, 183, Badger, BZ, 113. In general, we can see that most of those tanks translate to over here. We have the Strids von K, we have the 268, we have the Vickers, we have the Marat. So it's very, very clear proof that, like, a lot of you agree with me on most of these opinions. There's only really a couple tanks that made it further, right? The WZ-132-1, I personally believe should be in the super strong category. I think in a good player's hands, it is an absolutely amazing tank. Not only that, but I do think the 4005, due to its clipping potential, should be more in the overpowered category. But I am fully understanding with people putting it in good. It is a very, very hard tank to play. The 4202 was actually really close. People were, back and forth. The 4202 would have been, like, right in the middle of the road, and honestly, I don't disagree with that. I ended up putting the 4202 into the super strong category, but that's because I'm a skilled player who understands how to use the Hesh properly, right? So that is something to keep in mind. But in general, there was really only like three tanks that I did not put in my tier list in this category that you guys did, which is actually really, really impressive. I agree with most of the takes here. There really isn't anything I inherently disagree with. The only reason I would have put the 4005 in, like, overpowered is because of the clip. But if you actually were talking about the face value capabilities of the vehicle, yeah, I agree. It's good. Same for the mouse. I think the Rheinmetall Panzerwagen is kind of a mix of between super strong and good, but I think that's fine because I put it in strong. And then we go to my super strong category, right? E5, E4, Leopard 1, KPZ 50 ton, IS7, E100, VK90, Grill, T100LT, T22. Let's take a look at the list here, okay? Well, super strong, M48 Patton, 57 heavy. Well, there's the E5, there's the E4, there's the Leopard 1, there's the Kampfpanzer, there's the E100, there's the VK90, there's the Grill, there's the T100, T22. Continue down the list, what else do we have? Well, we have the 907, we have the 777, 268, 4202, 215B Chieftain, and you look over here, and again, most of these vehicles, like, legitimately, most of the tanks that I ranked, you guys also put. Now, there are a couple vehicles, like I put the BZ-75 in the strong, and you guys voted for the BZ-75. It was really neck and neck. The BZ was between good and super strong, so realistically, it would be more like in the middle here. But in general, I don't disagree with any of this. Funny enough, I actually put the 5A in the strong category, and you guys all voted for the 5A to go into super strong. So what I find ironic is that, there's always a lot of people which claim I, like, jerk off the 5A because it's my favorite tank. And unironically, the vehicles, my two favorite tanks in the game right now, the BZ-75 and the 5A, both of you both were ranked higher by my chat than I actually ranked them in my own tier list. Now, that's not to say I put them in a bad category. I put them in strong. And to be fair, if I did have a strong category, I'm pretty confident that's where you guys would have put them. But between good and super strong, the 5A and the BZ were both voted in super strong, which still shows that they are performing vehicles that you guys like. Honestly, I don't disagree with many of these tanks here. There are certain vehicles which I ended up putting in OP, right? If we actually go to my OP listing, we can see that I put the Boschat T125 ton, the TVP, the VZ55, and the Type 71 into the OP category. Same for the 57 Heavy, the Concept 1B, the M48 Patton. There were certain vehicles which I put up here that a lot of you put into the super strong category, right? Type 71 you put into the super strong category, the TVP, and the VZ55. And to be fair, that's understandable because while these tanks are very strong, a lot of you also said certain vehicles like the Rhino and other vehicles took over that spot. But I don't disagree with anything here. I think that if you were to look at every single tank in this category, I do think they're super strong. The only one that I might move a little bit lower would probably be the Badger. I think the Badger should be more like strong. But I don't disagree. This isn't enough of a disagreement that I'd make a big deal out of it. So then that brings us to the OP category, right? So we have the Sheridan, M6 Show, E6, E50M, Super Conk. I agree with all that. Hobry, 113 GFT, AMX50B, Foch, Caro, Rhino, Kron, Minnow. I agree with all of that. And then the only tank that we have that I didn't really agree with is the 183. Now, to be fair, I agree with the fundamentals of the 183 being an OP, but if you're basing it off the gun, then as I said before, the 4005 also should have made it up here because both of these vehicles have overpowered as hell guns. So, I don't know, I think that's a little hypocritical, but in general, I understand why the 183 is put up here, and I don't disagree, but if we're actually talking about a tank's face value capabilities, I think it would be more like good. That's probably where I'd put it. But in general, I don't disagree with 90% of the opinions you guys made. And as I said during my live stream, I said this is actually really something that I was surprised about. I was really expecting, like, I remember Fatness did a stream like this, and it was so chaotic. The opinions that people had were so incredibly different from what my opinions were, from what his opinions were, from what Flossie's opinions were. And because of that, it made this absolutely rambunctious tier list. But when I did this tier list, a lot of my viewers seemed to share similar viewpoints as me, right? I didn't tell people what to do. They all made their own opinions. They all made their own decisions. And these are where everything went, right? And it shows that a lot of the viewers that watch my channel appear to have similar viewpoints, capabilities, and playstyle to me. We also had a poll on the average win rate of my player, and it was around 50% mark. Yeah, there were some people that said they were 60%, but there was also an even amount of people that said they were 40%. And that's what I'd expect most people that are watching today's video to be sitting around the 55% range. So what this tier list is showcasing is basically anybody that is watching, today's video. If you're looking at this tier list here, or you're looking at my tier list, you'll have a pretty basic idea of what tanks you're going to do well in and what tanks you're going to do poor in. If you're new to the game, these are probably vehicles that you're going to want to stay away from for the most part. And then, if you're newer, these are probably the tanks that you'd want to take a look at. The Sheridan, the Yo, the E50M, the Foch, the 50B, the Minnow, the Kron. These are all tanks that are great, right? And I'm just very happy that the tier list I made was incredibly close to what the vast majority of the public opinion holds to. And it's why, if you actually look at like an analytical takedown of a tier list I make, a lot of the videos, well, I don't know if you can see it, but either way, a tier list like that, can you like search? Is that possible? Well, 2 weeks ago, there you go. Okay, I found it. So if we look at my tier list, it has a 96% like ratio. And the reason why is because I feel like a lot of the opinions I make, a lot of you agree with. So obviously you can let me know your personal feelings, comments, and opinions down below. But honestly, I'm pretty happy with how the stream ended up going out. I really expected, starting it, that I was going to lose all of my brain cells and be like, what the heck am I looking at? What are you guys doing? This is the worst tier list I've ever seen. But no, honestly, a lot of you guys have similar opinions to me, and I think that's great on both ends. It means that I'm in check with my audience, right? I know what my audience likes. I have similar opinions. And it also means that my audience is in check with me, right? You guys have similar ideas. It means that you guys are keeping up to date with what tanks are the best, what tanks are the worst. These are all great things. So either way, there's nothing bad, and I thought I'd just make this video in case you missed the stream. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.